Burley So. Hello everybody and welcome back to Burley So. I'm your host Purified, and today we're taking on part 3 of our Serger series with Bryan. This one we're going to take a quick look at tension, give you an idea how to adjust it. This machine has some issues. It was brought to him for repair, so we won't be able to balance it out correctly, but you'll get a good idea of what to do, plus some good insights from Bryan. So let's take a look.
All right. All right. Well, let's give this thing a shot. This particular white is a little weird in that the tensions, they rotate past 0, so that you get actually nearly 2 full revolutions. I think if I remember correctly, I back them down to 0, and then I think, and we'll test and balance, but I think I would bump it back up to 6 on these, and then maybe 4 here, and we'll just see what that looks like. See if we skip any stitches.
Alright, hold on a second.
Alright, I got my little sample here. Lift up the foot, just get that in there. I'm just guiding it to make sure it goes straight. So, alright. Sounds good, looks great as far as not skipping. But you can see we need to do some balancing, definitely. The white threads are all pulling. You can see these little loops here. So that means that either the looper threads are too tight or the needle threads are too loose. And it's probably
So the little loops on the left side of the red line?
Actually, I think they're both kind of pulling, yeah. But
and then there's a
mostly
little loop right on.
Yeah, and you can see now this is the lower looper right here. And these colors aren't terribly different, unfortunately. But the lower looper is pulling all the way around the fabric to the upper side. So the upper looper might be really tight. I think we should loosen up the upper looper, tighten up the needle threads, and see what we get. I just bumped the top tensions down. And the skip stitches are gone, but we're getting that nasty little pulling.
So how much did you lower them?
About 4 notches.
Okay, so
on this model, but more so, you know, when I pull on these with my, they feel a little more acceptable right now than they did earlier, when I had really cranked them up to try to get that to pull nicely.
So now would you just bump it up about 1?
Just a little bit, you know, just kind of going off of my feel of what I've learned over the years. And that could be a little more difficult. You know, normally under this circumstance where we're still pulling, I would bump down the looper tensions even more. But I don't feel comfortable with that because this one's already pretty much now at 0. So something is a little off here. That doesn't mean it's not going to do an okay job. We mostly got them balanced as good as this machine's going to do without some more adjustments, it would appear.
And what kind of adjustments?
If you've rethreaded and you've put in new needles, and you've rethreaded again, and you've put in new needles again, and you're still having problems, you may need to see a service technician, because it gets a little more complicated at this point to try to figure out why your tension may not be great, or why you might maybe even be breaking a thread or skipping a stitch. All of these moving parts, they're practically glancing each other. They're so tightly close together to the point where if they shift even 0.5 millimeter or less, they could crash and break. So, but you know, the first thing I would check as a technician is burrs on the loopers. I would look at the timing of the machine. Is the needle going up and down in sync with the loopers? Are the loopers in sync with each other? Is the feeding in sync with the stitch formation? Because the feeding plays a role. When it pulls that fabric back, it's also pulling that stitch tight as well as what the loopers are doing. Not to mention on sergers it gets even more complex in that we have all these little take-up levers. And this is probably the second thing I would look at in this situation, is these levers, these little moving things, they're all tugging threads at the right moments to pull the stitch tight. Like, oh, we're through here, let's pull that tight, let's pull that tight, let's pull that tight. And if they're adjustable. This can be adjusted side to side. This can be adjusted up and down to give you more or less take-up. Also, another thing that could cause this problem is if you misthread it and you miss this little check spring on your tensions. Not all of them have it, but this one does on this one. Or if it's just broken or missing, that can also cause that little excess thread loop that we don't want. So it does get a bit more intricate in here. And in this case, I think the skipping stitches was brought on by trying to balance tension, and because of that, we had cranked up the top needle threads so tight that the proper loop wasn't big enough for the looper to grab all the time.
Sure.
So by backing that off, yeah, no problem. The looper's grabbing them again. It's not skipping. But we still have that problem where it's the tension appears off, which is probably a burr or a take-up issue, actually.
Okay. So we do have a problem.
I think we have a minor problem, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this probably needs to be tinkered with and tested for another 30-40 minutes to get it just right. There's no reason it shouldn't get just right, though, because they're pretty solid machines that do amazing jobs at what they do when they're working right.
But this is your level of tinkering, not
Definitely, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I would never recommend anybody move any of these levers.
So that's what you might have to do. Are you going
don't
to do
wanna,
that, or
you don't want to mess with the timing of the loopers unless you know what you're doing. I mean, there are service manuals out there, but there's also special gauges that you use to set everything just properly. And actually, if you found a service manual for this, it would illustrate that gauge. So you can, even if you just looked at the manual, you could probably see that it might be a little above your head. But yeah, really complicated little machines. And I guess I'm going to have to put a little bit more time into it to get it sewing just right.
Well, there's another video from Burley Sew. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to say thank you, Bryan, for helping us out. I think I've got enough content for one more general troubleshooting video. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any comments, leave those below. Please subscribe, like the video if you liked it, share it with your friends. I'm Purified, and thanks for watching Burley Sew.